So making friends with your coworkers when working in New York City is probably your best bet on making new friends in New York City. So it's definitely also probably the most common way to meet new people as well. So back when I first started working in the city in my early 20s, this is definitely how I started meeting people in the city. Now, you might want to do this as well, but not really know how to go about forming an actual friendship with your coworkers that you work with. So a lot of people also get nervous that that will affect their job, or there might be some competition between coworkers or something like that. And honestly, like I said, this is probably the most common way that people start meeting new friends in the city. The best part about this is when you start making friends with your coworkers, they can then start introducing you to their friends, and then your friend group just keeps growing and growing and growing. So I definitely highly suggest this way of making new friends. So what is something that you can do to start kind of like forming this relationship that's kind of just more than just like surface level work stuff? So I would say that the easiest way to do that is during the workday, if you can, if your job allows this, and if you're a person, then I would say that the best thing to start doing is kind of like suggest grabbing a tea or a coffee or something during the workday. So this is going to be the easiest, like nonchalant way that you can kind of like get out of the office, get out of the space that you're working in, and just be able to talk about other things that aren't just always about work, because it's really easy to get into this like surface level friendship with your coworker that is only about work, which you also want to kind of break that barrier as well and kind of get to know them on a personal level too, because that's how you're going to form a real friendship. So the next step after this is going to be grabbing lunch together if your job allows that. So I know it's sometimes hard depending on if one of you can't be taking lunch while the other one is. So I completely understand that. If you're able to, grabbing lunch with them during the day is definitely going to be a way to kind of get out of that work environment and just be able to focus on you and that person's like relationship. So the next step that would be after getting lunch with this person would then be kind of like suggesting a happy hour or hanging out after work if you don't drink. So I would say that this is definitely the way that most people meet most of their friends in New York City when they're first starting to work in the city. Happy hours are huge in New York City. And it's not even just about the drinking. It's really just kind of like having an excuse to meet up with people after work. So this is a really good way that people just mingle between each other. And it doesn't have to be a happy hour that like your company puts together or that a bunch of coworkers put together. You can just suggest doing that with one or two friends from work. But I do have to say that happy hours are a really, really big way that people just socialize with their coworkers in like so many different industries in New York City. Like industry does not even matter. Everybody goes to happy hours. So that's going to be the way that you're kind of just going to get the friendship to kind of start and go a step further than just work. And then the next steps are going to be just keeping that relationship going. So doing more outside of the workplace, because I do see this happen a lot of times. And actually this has happened to me as well, is that I really get along with someone really, really well. And I want that friendship to be more than just like a work friendship, but the other person just keeps it all about work, all surface level. And it's like, I get it, obviously we work together, we're going to definitely talk about work. But at the same time, sometimes you want your true friends to be more than that. And that's also one of the hardest parts of New York City, is making true friends that are more than just the surface level, because there's a lot of people here. And sometimes it's hard for people to break through that surface level barrier. And I don't know, I think that's really important to me, at least, is I like to be more than just like surface level friends. I want to really get to know you as a person. I would definitely recommend spending one-on-one time together with this person, because I think also with coworkers, it's really easy to go out in like big group settings, but sometimes with those big group settings, that's when that surface level kind of stuff comes in and that you can't really break through that. So spending time one-on-one with the person that you're really trying to become close with will really help keep it away from just work and make it more of like an actual long-term friendship. Then the other hard part is that people don't stay in jobs long in New York City, or really anywhere in the world during this day and age. So the other hard part is keeping that friend while you don't work at that job any longer. So I would say that this is very, very common. And I've met one of my best friends through work to this day, and that we worked together many years ago. And I know so many other people who have met some of their other best friends through work many years ago. It's the hardest part, but at the same time, if you were able to create a deep enough bond when you work together, then this part that comes after you guys both don't work at that same job anymore becomes so much easier, because you actually had a real bond that wasn't just about that job. So I would say that it takes two to really keep that relationship going long term. But at the same time, if you really, really work on creating a true friendship while you work together, it's not going to be as hard to keep the relationship going down the road. So that's basically my take on how to make friends with your coworkers in New York City. And like I said, it's extremely common and I highly recommend it. I would say the biggest challenge is, so sometimes if you do work remote, this becomes a little bit more challenging, because you're just not able to make the same connections with remote workers most of the time as you are with people that you're working with in an office or an in-person environment. So it does make it a little bit more challenging, but I have seen it done before. It's never personally happened to me, because I've never worked remote with other coworkers. I've just worked remote in my own business. But I do think that it can happen. It's a little bit more challenging because you have to go out of your way to really be able to meet in person. But at the same time, it can also be done. It just creates a little bit more hard work on your end. So I hope this helped you figure out how you can make friends with your coworkers. So if you guys would like to share any ideas or share your experiences in the comments, I would love hearing from you guys, because as always, I love hearing your comments and I love hearing your stories.